Yeah, we're gonna go to a back-to-back race. Like we're gonna race on Saturday, then we're gonna race on Sunday, and it is going to be, if not the same, very similar to the racing we just saw today. I'm scared.
Lesson from the brain, seeing the beauty through the.
What's up YouTube, welcome back to the video, and today we are going to be recapping the Pocono race. If you guys do enjoy, make sure you like, hit that subscribe button. Let's go right into the race recap. Stage 1 would start out with your pole sitter William Byron leading the first 20 laps, but then a competition caution would come out in which you would see different drivers try different strategies. Larson would then have the I guess pole position, but coming off of lap 20. He would take 2 tires and have the lead and lead the rest of the stage. And there would be a caution after about 5 or 6 laps. Austin Dillon getting turned by Paul Menard. There's kind of a discussion whose fault it was, but that's just it was both their fault. And then Larson would still have the lead and would go on to win the stage. And then there would be some interesting strategy that would play out at stage 2. See people like Kyle Busch, Eric Jones, Chase Elliott, they would go and pit just before the pit road closed at the end of the stage and stay out for the next stage. Stage 2 would show some shades of a 2018 race. Kyle Busch would take the lead, and despite a lot of cautions, he would keep that lead until he would pit later in the stage, in which Kyle Larson would go on to win stage 2. Interesting enough, Bubba Wallace, Daniel Hemrick, a couple people that you usually don't see in the top 10 there, actually were able to get some stage points there. I'm not sure that doesn't really mean anything for the playoff race, but still it was kind of an interesting to see those guys up there. Much like stage 1 or stage 2, much like stage 2, stage 3 would go on pretty much the same as stage 2. Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, much like last year, would pull away to about a 5 to 6 second lead. Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick probably about a second apart from each other. Then green flag pit stop started happening, and Kevin Harvick would get a penalty and would have to obviously drive through, and Kyle Busch would come out with the lead in position, but you would have people like Daniel Suarez, William Byron pushing it as far as they could go. Kyle Busch would end up cycling to the lead though, and would pretty much lead until about 12 laps to go when a caution would come out for Ricky Stenhouse. Then go on to restart with about 8 to 9 laps to go, and Kyle Busch would do Kyle Busch things. It was a pretty crazy restart, but Kyle Busch would keep the lead and pretty much lead for the rest of the race. And give this race a left turn rating of 5 out of 10. It was a pretty boring race, I'm just going to be honest with you. As soon as Kyle Busch took the lead, you could pretty well tell where the race was going, and there wasn't really anything you could do about it. Even with the caution, you just went out to lead, and that's not to knock on Kyle Busch, but quite frankly, watching the same car lead pretty much the entire race is fairly boring. But not to be negative, you can't have every race be a 10 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, or an 8 out of 10. You can't have every race be that great. There's going to be ones that aren't as interesting as others, and Pocono was just one of those races. Otherwise, I'm kind of worried about the fact that Pocono is going to be a back-to-back race next season, and I think we might want to look into changing that if we can, if possible, just due to the fact it's going to be 2 pretty boring races, if it's anything like these. But and that's enough about. There's not really much to talk about. I gave you the race recap in probably about 2 minutes. There wasn't really that much to talk about the race. It was really just kind of really looked like the last season race. Not much to really talk about. Finishes Kyle Busch obviously winning. He gets his 4th win of the season. He also gets he tied with Rusty Wallace, I believe it was, for 9th all-time in wins. Brad Keselowski finds himself in 2nd. I don't know how. Him and Paul Wolfe, literally week in and week out, just find a way to get into the top 10, or not even top 10, top 5. He was there, I guess, a little bit throughout the race, but somehow got there in 2nd. Eric Jones, he was in 2nd for a lot of the race, had a really great race. They've kind of fallen off the last couple of weeks, but now he's back with a 3rd place finish, and that's really good to see from him. Chase Elliott, he had a pretty quiet race. He started outside the top 10, worked his way in, and eventually got up to 4th. Great race for him. Clint Boyer, he got 5th place. He was up there. I think he led a little bit of laps, but just again a lot of quiet races from a lot of people, and that happens when you have a person dominate. Joey Logano, I'm not really sure what happened to him. I actually just skipped Hamlin. Hamlin had a pretty good race too. Hamlin and Logano, they just kind of were there. Same with Suarez. He had a good race. He had fallen off, kind of like Jones. He had fallen off there, and good to see him up front there a little bit. William Byron, he was just all over the place. I felt like if he actually had track position, he just lost his track position after stage 1, and he just couldn't seem to get it back. And I think if he did get some track position, he might have been able to put up a fight. He seemed to have a fast car for most of the race. And then 10th place, right after top 10, is Eric Almirola. And then outside of that, Daniel Hemrick, he got 13th. Pretty good finish for him. He kind of got that on some strategy, but hey, the strategy worked. Chris Buescher, this team seems to get better and better each week. They had a really good, I think it was 7th place finish last week, and now a 14th place finish. His team's looking really good now, and shout out to him. Matty Benedetto, he had a kind of a all around the place race. I actually think he brought out a caution, but he actually ended up finishing 17th. That's good. This team has kind of gone quiet the last couple of weeks, so it's good to see a good top 20 race from them. And Bubba Wallace, remember, I have a video coming out about him tomorrow. He seemed pretty confident that this new sponsorship was going to see improved stats, and even though he finished 21st, he was in the top 15 for a good portion of the 3rd stage. So good to see him doing better with this new sponsorship. And actually, there was hints, some rumors out there that he, if he had not gotten that sponsorship, he might have been out of the ride as soon as this season. So that's kind of interesting here. But other than that, nothing really more interesting. Kevin Harvick, he was in 2nd for a lot of the stage 3. He had an issue, or actually a penalty, and finished 22nd. Pocono races, I would say this is pretty well below average. As for points implications, not really sure. Harvick, he didn't have that great of a finish, but he had a couple good stage finishes, so I think that kind of helps him there. Larson, he had a 26th place finish, but he won both stages, so that should hopefully give him a little bit of a cushion there. As far as points go, William Byron had a pretty good race, so he might move up a little bit in the standings. And obviously Kyle Busch won the race, so he's obviously had a good points race. But you know, as for the race overall, it was definitely one of the worst races of the season. And you know, that's saying a lot. That is actually saying a lot. It's not saying that it wasn't a terrible race, but it wasn't a good race. It was an okay race. And comparative to the other races, it was a really boring race, and it was not good. But again, that's comparing it to, you know, Charlotte, Kansas, the All-Star race, all those races. Comparing it to that is a little unfair, and it's really what you kind of expect from Pocono, but just a little bit worse than what you would actually expect from Pocono. But you have races like this. It's going to happen in a 36 race schedule. There's going to be races that are boring, and you know, it just happens. And you look at any era, not every race is close. Not every race has an amazing finish or anything like that. There are snooze fests like these. But that's really all I got. Hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure you leave a like, hit the subscribe button, comment down below your guys' thoughts on the Pocono race, and I have a couple videos planned for this week, so be sure to check those out. And with that, have a great week, have a great rest of your day, and peace out.